Here's something no one is willing to admit. The American elites love illegal immigration. Not because they care about human rights or the so-called American dream, but because illegal immigration keeps their pockets full and their power unchallenged. It's not about helping people as they advocate publicly. It's about cheap labor that can be controlled and exploited behind closed doors. And it's time to expose the truth behind it all. Illegal immigrants are the perfect source of cheap labor for American elites. They work for a fraction of the wages that legal citizens demand. They do the jobs that many Americans won't, often working long hours in grueling conditions for minimal pay. And guess what? The rich love it. Why? Because it keeps their profits high and costs low. But this comes at a price. By flooding the labor market with cheap and heavily exploited labor, the wages for the average American will continue to stay stagnant. This, in turn, keeps the working class struggling, while the rich continue to profit. If wages were allowed to rise and the labor market was less flooded with cheap workers, we would see more opportunities for upward mobility. But that's not what the elites want, and they have manipulated half the country to think so too. They want to keep the rich elites at the top and the regular working-class Americans that contribute to the system the poorest we have ever been in history. All while continuing to gaslight the American people saying, wages are the highest they have ever been, or the economy is the best it has ever been according to the data, which is a total slap in the face to people who are living proof that these statements are complete bullshit. Here's the cold, hard truth. The birth rate in the U.S. has been declining for years, and why is that? Inflation and wage stagnation are the simplest answer. The middle class is shrinking, and fewer Americans can afford to raise families. But there's a plan behind all this. The elites don't care about your struggle to survive. They need to keep the labor force growing, and who better to bring in than people willing to work for almost nothing? By allowing illegal immigration to flood the country, the elites are ensuring that they have a continuous supply of cheap labor to keep the economy running. They're replacing American workers with people who are more desperate, more willing to accept low wages, and far less likely to demand better conditions. This isn't about compassion at all, like the delusional far leftists like to believe. It's about control. The elites don't care about preserving American culture or helping the people they should represent. They care about their power, and maintaining it means ensuring they have a workforce that will never challenge them. Immigrants, especially illegal ones, don't complain. Why? Because they have everything to lose. If they speak out, or if they demand fair wages or better working conditions, they risk being deported. Anything that would draw attention to them obviously would result in a higher chance of deportation. They don't have the willpower of fighting back as they have everything to lose by leaving. Of course, this leads me to remind you of all the real benefits that illegal immigrants are getting, the ones that American citizens can only dream of.
¿Y usted ahora mismo está viviendo aquí en el Roosevelt Hotel?
Sí, sí.
¿Y ustedes están recibiendo comida?
Sí,
¿Reciben comida?
claro, comida, dan desayuno, almuerzo y cena.
Desayuno, almuerzo y cena.
Yes. Las habitaciones son cómodas.
¿Y cuánto tiempo lleva aquí en los Estados?
7 meses.
7 meses.
Sí.
¿Y por cuánto tiempo ha estado aquí?
7 meses.
Usted ha estado ahí por 7 meses quedándose.
Sí.
Y es gratis, ¿cierto?
Pues sí, la ayuda del gobierno, de aquí del gobierno de Nueva York.
It's a national welfare system, not an international welfare system. And the question that I would pose to people who see nothing wrong with these types of statistics is, would you expect to be able to move to another country and be able to access their public funds and their public housing within 5 years? I certainly wouldn't. I think you wouldn't. I also think you wouldn't. It is absolutely not right. And it is extreme and it's radical. There are not many countries that is as welcoming and as maybe stupid as Britain, that allows people who have only been in the country for 5 years to have access to public funds when, as I've just said, they're not even citizens, they just have indefinite leave to remain.
When looking around for information on this, I found it highly interesting and scary that one of the easiest places I was able to find this information was on the popular app TikTok. We will go over later in this video why that is and why the out-of-touch elites want to ban the app, although it is pretty obvious to most people. In many cases, illegal immigrants are given free housing, free food, and even job priority over Americans. That's right, They are given government assistance programs that many legal citizens can't even access, while we're left fighting for scraps. And you know why that is? Because they want it like that. In many cities across the U.S., illegal immigrants are offered free housing and food assistance. They're placed in shelters, given food stamps, and even provided with access to health care, which of course are all funded by taxpayer dollars. Meanwhile, hard-working American citizens are left to struggle, many of whom can't afford basic necessities. We're told that there isn't enough money for the average citizen, but we're pouring resources into the hands of people who entered the country illegally, many of which could very well be criminals in their country of origin. Does this sound fair to you? But it doesn't stop there. Immigrants, even those who have entered the country illegally, are often given priority for certain jobs, especially in industries where wages are already low. They're willing to work for less and often live together in large families to keep their cost of living down. Meanwhile, Americans are stuck competing for jobs that don't pay enough to live on. Illegal immigrants don't have to worry about the same things we do. They can live 10 people to an apartment, sending most of their earnings back to their home countries, while we struggle to pay rent and utilities on our own. The system benefits from keeping this imbalance going. They give immigrants these benefits because they know they can exploit them and they'll never complain. They'll always be grateful, and they'll keep working without asking for more. Meanwhile, the American worker is left to fend for themselves. We're working harder than ever, yet immigrants are seen as a tool to keep wages low and workers desperate. American citizens are paying the price for this arrangement that they keep voting for, with resources that should go to helping struggling families now diverted elsewhere. It's a system designed to keep us divided, keep us distracted, and keep the elites in power, enjoying the wealth and control. I do not agree with either side of politics completely, but regardless, both sides should agree that this is hurting everyone regardless of their political side. Now, the truth could not be more obvious by looking through the lens of a working-class American. The elites benefit from the flood of illegal immigration. They get cheap labor, they keep wages down, and they use the crisis to keep us fighting among ourselves while they continue to profit. They can afford to offer free housing, food, and job priority to immigrants because they don't have to face the consequences while we do every day. But as Americans, we need to wake up and see the manipulation for what it is. The elites are not looking out for us. They are looking out for themselves, and their only goal is to stay in power. It's time we take back control, demand fair treatment, and stop letting them use us as pawns in their game. Meanwhile, we, the American people, are told to sit back and accept that this is just the way it is. I say that is hardly what I would consider a free nation as our history claims we are, and we shouldn't keep letting them get away with robbing us of fair wages and a normal life. I think I speak for most people when I say the majority of us don't care about wealth, we just want to be able to live without constantly worrying about our finances. We're told that the elites are looking out for us, that they represent our best interests. But the truth is, they're using us as pawns in a game designed to keep the rich rich. The less we question, the better it is for them. It's often said that immigrants come to America to embrace the American dream, to build a new life, and to become Americans. But let's be honest. For many of them, America isn't home. They're proud of their country of origin and have no real loyalty to this country. Why would they? They come here not for the dream of America, but to survive. And yet, when they migrate here illegally, they have the audacity to accuse us of being racist. They come into this country without following the law, and they expect us not to care. They break the rules and then demand we accept it. Meanwhile, we, as legal citizens, are supposed to just be okay with it because apparently not embracing their right to be here makes us the bad guys. It's no surprise the government doesn't do much to fix this. The system benefits from it. The elites and the politicians want to keep things the way they are. They want to keep wages low, keep the people divided, and keep their wealth growing. It's all a game of manipulation. Our government is no longer working for us. They're working for themselves. They're filling their pockets while the rest of us struggle to make ends meet. The solution? They need to be fired. The old politicians are the ones who are out of touch. They need to be replaced with younger, more empathetic American patriots who actually care about this country and its citizens, and not the corporations and the rich elites that claim to have our backs. And then there's the supposed ban of TikTok. What's the big deal with banning TikTok anyway? The elites want to shut it down because TikTok is a source of uncontrolled information. It's not manipulated by the media, which means it's not controlled by the government. TikTok is where real discussions are happening. It's where people are waking up to the lies they've been fed by the mainstream media. The elites don't want that. They don't want us realizing the truth. So what do? They censor it. By banning TikTok, they silence a platform that helps people see through their manipulation. They're scared of the truth getting out. The truth about how the government is betraying the American people. They want to keep us distracted with mindless entertainment, divided by the media they control, while they get rich off the backs of people who actually deserve the money they are stealing. This is all part of the same playbook, which is to keep the people ignorant, keep them divided, and keep the money flowing to the top. America is currently at a roadblock. The elites are using illegal immigration as a tool to keep the power over the middle class, essentially turning them poor, when in reality they should be thriving with the amount of work that is demanded of them. They're replacing American workers with cheap labor, keeping us divided, and silencing any efforts to expose the truth. The government, as it stands, no longer serves the people. It serves the interests of the powerful. But here's the thing. We shouldn't be powerless. The future of this country isn't in the hands of corrupt politicians or corporations. It's in the hands of the people who are willing to stand up and say, enough is enough. We need to take back control, demand better for the American people, and reform this broken system for our sake and for the sake of our people. If you are wondering why the elites wants you working in their broken system, check out this video on the left where I expose the system for being rigged and unrewarding. Or check out why rent is crushing Gen Z and why the boomers don't care about it as usual on the right. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one.